Jonathan Swift and the planet Mars. In his discussion on planets, we find that Dr. Velikovsky includes the statement concerning the satellites of Mars made by Jonathan Swift in his Gulliver's Travels of 1726. The mystery is that Swift accurately identified Mars as having two small satellites, although no known telescope or other instrument existed at that time which would have enabled Swift to see these satellites. Swift wrote of certain astrologers, and used the word astrologer, not what we might expect for astronomers, and that they, quotes, have discovered two lesser stars or satellites which revolve about Mars, whereof the innermost is distant from the planet exactly 3.5 diameters, and the outermost 5. The former revolves in a space of 10 hours, and the latter in 21.5. As is now known, there are two tiny satellites of Mars, and they are very close indeed to the planet, and they do revolve in the remarkably short orbital times of 7 hours 39 minutes and 30 hours 18 minutes respectively. How Swift knew this is baffling. The volume, Gulliver's Travels, is however a grouping of 4 stories. The best known is Gulliver's visit to the land of Lilliput, where very tiny people dwell. Here tiny people with tiny minds fought with their neighbours over which end of a boiled egg should be cut open. Satire is evident all through Swift's works, and it seems that he here lampoons the stupidity of Protestants and Catholic religious squabbles and other related religious dogmas. Gulliver, whose name is built on to gull, which means to trick or deceive, and who seems to represent the ordinary common man, also visits 3 other strange lands. One is the land of huge giants, who when seen by the comparatively tiny Gulliver at close range, show exaggerations of ordinary blemishes that are repulsive. It seems that the great ones only appear fine at long range. What is significant, however, is Gulliver's visit to the strange land ruled by a race of intelligent talking horses. Here the servants of the horses are cretinous, servile, stupid human beings. They perform the most vile and degrading tasks in serving their horse masters, even to the extent of licking their backsides clean. These degraded servants are known as the Yahoos, or the Yahoos. It seems odd that Velikovsky missed the connection between Yah, or Jah, or Yah, or Yah, Yahoo, Yahweh, Jehovah, and the Yahoo, or Yahoo. The Gnostics knew the great heavenly power which controlled the earth, and the Aldebuth, the great horse, and his son who replaced him as Sauboth, the little horse. In British terms, as we detail elsewhere, Merlin means little horse, indicating enlightened. It seems that Swift was publishing coded messages to those who could understand and interpret them. In any analysis, Yah appears to be the ancient and feared comet Typhon, who the Chaldeans knew as Tiamat. In Jewish eyes, it was Yah Typhon who was victorious, for the comet coming close to Earth caused the catastrophes which included the destruction of Egypt and the Egyptian pharaoh's army. In Chaldean eyes, it was the collision of Yah Typhon with Marduk Jupiter which saved the earth, and all other nations thought the same. Therefore, the Chaldeans and everyone else revered Marduk, whereas the Jews revered Yah Typhon. One race worshipped the comet, which nearly destroyed the whole earth, because its approach played a major part in saving them. All other nations simply rejoiced because a collision with the great planet Marduk Jupiter had the effect of beating off the dangerous vast comet, and saved not one group of tribes, but the whole earth. Every reference to the coming of Yahweh forewarns of vast destruction and devastation. In past times, when every event was automatically associated with religious meaning, the devil was given a number. The number allotted to the devil was 666, and we believe that this could mean 666 years. Very few ancient empires and kingdoms survived long enough to calculate such a cycle. The Chaldeans, the Egyptians, and the Jews could all have accomplished this feat, however, and knowledge was spread from nation to nation. So a period of around 666 years may have been established as the time cycles of the Great Visitor from the outer reaches of our solar system. We have seen how a great comet appeared in the 6th century AD. You can see it in the Anglo-Saxon chronicles and the Welsh histories concerning Cadwaladr. We have seen another probable appearance in 1348, and the subsequent great plagues which swept the earth. This would mean that we're overdue for a visit again. The problem is not only will it come, and we certainly think that it will, but what effect will it have? If great flying object is a monster asteroid or great comet, it may have certain effects on our planet Earth. What is possible, however, is that this powerful and very unwelcome visitor is a star. Not a bright shining star like our sun, but a dense, dark, incredibly heavy dwarf twin. We see our star, the sun, and assume that it is a single solo star. What, however, if this is not so, and our star is part of a binary star system, as are many other distant stars? Historical record has for long been obscured by religious mumbo-jumbo, and the basic natural facts have been submerged from sight. The records which we have indicate something very strange indeed, for they record the entry into our solar system of a heavenly body powerful enough to displace planets from their orbits. The planet Saturn, call it Cronus or Osiris or Bel Enlil or Poilth or whatever, Saturn, the king planet, was displaced. This is an awesome thought. To express our interpretation of the probability, we can explain things in this way. If the Earth is circling around the Sun, and the stranger from space arrives on the same side of the Sun close to where Earth is, then Earth can be rocked and twisted about. It follows that if the Earth is in a position well away from the stranger from space, virtually on the other side of the Sun, then all will be well, or at least minimized. There are all sorts of angles and tangents at which the approach may come. The dark, demon, stranger body was known to the Egyptian priests as His Majesty Sutek, or Seth. To the Jews he was Satan, and to the Welsh he was Hagvan, the king of Anoivan, or Hagvan, the king of the abyss, the great void of outer space. Hagvan waged war with Arun, the king of Anoivan, and Poilth, what was known as Saturn, was drawn into the conflict. Symbolically, the conflict of Hagvan and Arun sends Arun riding out of his own domains periodically to enter our solar system, which was anciently ruled by Poilth, Saturn. The question is not whether or not we have an impending visit from some giant comet, planet or asteroid, possibly black dwarf star. The question is, what exactly is it? How powerful is it? And how close to Earth will it pass? There is also the question of whether this stranger to our solar system, around our sun, will disturb any other planets besides or instead the Earth. Ancient evidence shows that both Mars and Venus were at times in dangerous, unstable orbits, or rather out of orbit. If Saturn was also anciently displaced and sent into a new orbit, the situation is indeed interesting. In a cave high on a mountain might be a good place to be at that time. That the dark stranger has an orbit, either elliptical or circular, and periodically enters our solar system, appears likely. Whether our own sun has an orbit which interlinks with other dangerous companion, we do not know. Moving on to the identities of Gabriel and Michael. Stories of the Archangels Michael and Gabriel are universally known in all areas where Judeo-Christian ideas are being propagated. The notation is that Yah, or Yahweh, the ancient Jewish storm god, had two powerful servants or emissaries who he sent to do his bidding. These archangels were Michael and Gabriel, and natural events resulting from solar disorder or just plain bad weather or earthquakes on Earth were seen as deliberate actions by Yahweh and his servants. Today, anyone convinced of flare-ups on the sun or earthquakes and typhoons on Earth were the result of decisions taken by the storm god Yahweh would be regarded as a lunatic. So why do people believe exactly the same thing about events that occurred some 2,700 and 3,200 years ago? Dr. Emanuel Velikovsky, following a trail of research blazed by Edmund Halley, or Halley as he's usually called these days, and Ignatius Donnelly, show conclusively that the Earth has, in the period of recorded history, been subjected to upheavals following great disorders in the solar system around the Sun, of which Earth is a part. The arrival of a new planet into the system, and its dangerous, uncertain spiralling before it settled into a new orbit, caused changes in the order of the solar system. Earth was affected by disturbed planets coming too close. Magnetic and gravitational forces caused monster ocean floods and disturbances. Tilting of the poles caused unusual stresses on the Earth's crust, and resultant volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. Storms raged across the globe, and massive disasters affected the lives of men and beasts. According to Velikovsky, quoting Talmudic and Midrashic sources, the Archangel Gabriel was the power which destroyed the armies of the Assyrian Emperor Sennacherib around 687 BC. Gabriel took the guise of a column of fire and a huge blast, and colloquially the expression is, "Gabriel, come blow your horn." Detailed research by Velikovsky already establishes that the great disturbances around 687 BC resulted from too close an approach to Earth by the planet Mars. Therefore, logically, Velikovsky equates Mars with the Archangel Gabriel. In support of this, Velikovsky quotes J. Trachtenberg's Jewish Magic and Superstition publication 1939. Here there are held to be 7 archangels, all of whom were planets. He further quotes Ginsberg legends and the 1901 publication of M. Grunbaum. It becomes clear the Jewish traditions were firmly orientated towards identifying the planet Mars as Gabriel, whose blast destroyed the Assyrian armies. Incidentally, this blast also caused earth tremors, which overthrew the walls of Troy shortly before the Trojan War of 650 to 660 BC. Gabriel, or Mars, was not only appointed over the entity of fire, he was the angel of war. This, according to Origen in De Principiis. Velikovsky's, whose works are best read complete, referred to the Jewish prophet Isaiah 33:3, quoting, "At the noise of the Hammon," which is tumult, "the people fled," and linked this with Jerome writing that Hammon was identical to Gabriel. This tumult then became the Song of the Celestials in rabbinical traditions. Velikovsky's accumulated evidence is formidable, and we would support him. He points out that the Jewish text in Pesikta Rabbah 20-38b affirm that the Holy One created Mardin, that he should throw the then nations down into hell. Close quotes. As Mardin means the red, or the one who reddens, and Mars is the red planet, this again appears conclusive. Having demonstrated, with far more evidence than we can quote here, that Mars is the Archangel Gabriel, Dr. Velikovsky turned to the question of who or what then was Michael, the other Archangel. Clearly, there is the quite obvious possibility that Michael was also a disturbed planet. The conclusion reached by Velikovsky that the Archangel Michael, known fondly to the English as St. George, was the planet Venus. We disagree with this conclusion absolutely. It seems also to be at complete variance with Dr. Velikovsky's own researches into the origins and observed movements of Venus and the attitude of ancient nations towards the planet Venus. The appointment in Chaldean theology at this time of Marduk to be the supreme instrument and executive power of the assembled gods of Chaldea appears to have been overlooked by Velikovsky. It was Marduk, or Baal Marduk, who slew the great dangerous dragon Tiamat, who threatened the whole order and structure of the cosmos, and there can be no doubt that Marduk was the planet Jupiter, known to the Greeks as Zeus. It was Zeus Jupiter who had the power to hurl down flaming thunderbolts onto planet Earth. Definitely not Venus. It was Jupiter Zeus who was Marduk, who slew the dragon. Velikovsky proceeds to state of Michael, quotes, "He had his abode in heaven and is the forerunner of Shekinah, of God's presence. But as Lucifer, Michael fell from heaven and his hands are bound by God." Close quotes. Here we have the core of Velikovsky's problem. The entry into our solar system of a wandering planet comet of some prodigious size disturbed the existing order. Life on Earth was threatened by such cosmic disorder, which could set fire to our atmosphere, displace the north and south poles, throw the very oceans miles into our skies, flood all the lands, cause vast earth tremors and quakes, and open up dangerous volcanoes. The highly visible Stranger Planet comet was moving with great speed, and its velocity gave power to disturb even planetary giants such as Jupiter. This is the story preserved in the Chaldean 7 tablets of creation from Babylon, and exactly mirrored in the neglected British stories of the 4 branches of the Mabinogi. It was Jupiter that was moved out of its known safe orbit, which collided with the Dragon Slayer. Whether the planet Venus was the Stranger Planet comet which entered our solar system and was, quotes, tamed, close quotes, by Jupiter is doubtful. Historical legends from many nations tell us of how the dragon was literally destroyed by Marduk, or as Jupiter, or Poil in the Welsh stories. These various sources actually tell of 2 dangerous stranger bodies, and in some records there appear to be 3. If Venus was one, then the other was destroyed. In the Mabinogi, quotes, origins, close quotes, of the British, there appears to be 2 major planetary bodies threatening the Earth, described as a man and wife of equal bigness, and also their family. The English Beowulf saga describes the 2 monsters, again male and female. The Welsh Mabinogi tales make it clear that the wandering dangerous planets are Venus and Mercury. The Babylonian texts identify the mighty female as Tiamat, with Kingi as her consort, and Apsi and Mimi, the counsellor, as co-conspirators. There is no doubt that the Marduk Jupiter literally tore the dragon to pieces. The Chaldean epic makes Marduk the saviour of order in the universe, and therefore also of Earth and mankind. Marduk becomes, as a result, the one supreme god. Equally, Marduk is credited with setting all the gods in their due stations and with fixing the zodiac. It is Marduk who creates heaven and earth. He measures out the year and orders the months, orders the orbits of the planets, and establishes his own place as the planet Niburu, which is Jupiter. The Jewish view of matters was different, as Marduk, as Michael, Jupiter, was the servant of the supreme god and not the powerful god himself. The return of Michael Jupiter to a safe orbit was seen as the casting down of a mighty angel who had sought to rule instead of the god. This would be the fall of Lucifer, who sought to rule instead of God. Indeed, with a massive planet like Jupiter moving out of orbit into an unsafe spiralling and passing close to the Earth, it might appear that the planet god Michael, Jupiter, was attempting to dominate and rule. Just what Jupiter would have looked like at close range, we can only imagine, but the sight must have been awesome to men on Earth. All we have are two quite different interpretations of the same solar event. At the time of the Exodus, around 1350 BC, the planet Jupiter, as Michael the Archangel, appeared to save the Jewish people, causing all manner of upheavals and disasters, one of which destroyed an army which pursued Moses and his followers. Then, 687 BC, the planet Mars, in the guise as the Archangel Gabriel, was again seen as an entity which brought destruction to the armies of Sennacherib, the Assyrian emperor. So Michael and Gabriel both were instrumental in saving the Jews. Credit for these solar disorders was given to Yah, or Yahweh, the storm god, who was seen as organising the events. The notion that both Venus and Mars were as large as Earth is apparently known in the apocryphal book of the Ascension of Moses. How the acts of Michael the Archangel can be described as Venus instead of Jupiter is not at all clear. If Yah is Ea, and we know that Marduk was the son of Ea, then Michael is the servant or favoured son of Yah, is his equivalent, and therefore Michael the Archangel has to be Marduk, Michael, Jupiter. The Chaldeans saw the removal of Marduk, Jupiter, to a safe orbit away from the Earth as the ordered action of a beneficent god setting the heavens in safe order. The Jews saw the removal of Michael Jupiter from proximity to Earth and away to a safe solar orbit as an action of Yah, who was casting down a rebellious archangel, Lucifer, Satan, Marduk, Michael. Nothing could or did happen without a motivation of Yah, the jealous god. Bel, Marduk and Bran, the comparisons of the obvious. In this exploration of ancient British and Chaldean links, which begins with the investigation of the British history of Albine sailing to Britain with a great fleet from Syria around 1600 BC, there are many comparative exercises. Not least in this series of parallels is the search for the British alter ego of the Chaldean god Bel Marduk, or Baal Marduk. There is plenty of evidence supporting the British records of ancestry back to Ur, the Chaldeans, and also to Western Asia Minor. In line with this reasoning, it is utterly logical that the ancient British ancestral Ael-Sicanus, or the Old Syrians, brought with them their records of philosophy, religion, and general technical culture, which would include ore mining and metalworking, agricultural husbandry, cattle farming, housing, weaving of textiles, and sciences including astronomy and mathematics. That they preserved this body of knowledge is evidence from the writings of Strabo around 50 BC and Julius Caesar around 55 BC, and others, including Ammianus Marcellinus.